Okay, take two. I just hit a button on my keyboard and it stopped recording on me. New Epstein files, last known interview, body language analysis. I'm not going to show it all. It doesn't go for that long anyway. It's excuse me. It's part of the interview of what I was watching earlier, the interview between Jeffrey Epstein and Steve Bannon. It's pretty uninteresting for most. I'm not all that hung up on the Epstein files. Doesn't mean I condone any of it. What it means is we've got AI deepfakes, we've got all this information that's been touched and played around with so many different fingers from so many different places. You've got the DOJ over there, you've got the FBI, you've got the CIA, you've got compromised individuals, persons that have had their hands on them. It's not only what could be taken out of it, what's been added. I don't think any of it's going to hold much weight, to be honest. Donald Trump could be the guiltiest bastard on there, we wouldn't know. For all we know, Joe Biden's got a Neuralink in his head and they turned him goofy. You know, like when you couple all this with the fact that Alexandria, or what is it, bloody Organic Cortez, I don't know what the A stands for, don't really care. Alexandria Cortez, AOC, and Paris Hilton, and a bunch of senators and who else was there? There was people from the Department of Justice and so forth, all getting together, creating new laws around artificial intelligence, deep fakes, and people making porn to blackmail each other with. I don't think we can really hope for that cup to hold much coffee, can we? You know, speaking that's empty. Not really. It's because of the water becoming so dirtied with it all over so much time. I don't think anybody's got anything to worry about. No matter how guilty they are. It's all going to be circumstantial evidence now. Inadmissible in a court of law. Why? Because it's tainted evidence. If you sit on evidence long enough and it's been through so many hands and pulled apart, put back together, different entities from different places have had access to it, it's fucked. It's circumstantial evidence, and circumstantial evidence is inadmissible in a court of law. Anybody who's had to deal with bottom of the barrel policing, reaching for the stars, will know this. They'll pull anything they can out from behind their ear, up their sleeve and up your own bum, and present it as charges. It doesn't mean you're guilty. It doesn't mean it's proof of nothing. It's circumstantial. All it is to dirty up the character. It's ad hominem at best. An ad hominem is an argument that shifts the argument from the topic to the person. By stealth, to assassinate the person's character, to implicate the person as the crime rather than the crime itself. It's like taking all the good players out rather than playing the game and playing the ball. You try to take the players out, so there's no good players left, and then you win the game by default. You ruin all the good players. You know, they're all yellow and red carded. They've all got fouls, you know, oh, dirty sport, dirty, and then they all have a bad opinion of them, and they don't get a chance. You see that all day, every day, especially in family court. Family court's never about the kids, it's always about ad hominems and character assassination. Why? Because it makes money. And people play that game, which just keeps adding validation to a court that is invalid. Anyway, let's watch this. Why not?
That I'm already working on, so please stay tuned for all of those. But the DOJ is not making it easy to get a hold of all of the files. There are 4 data sets that were released in this most recent batch. 2 of the data sets, very easy to download. The other 2 data sets are no longer available. They removed them almost immediately once they were released. You can look up individual files, but doing that for 2 million plus files is very challenging. So as far as pictures, videos, and so forth, the vast majority of those are still not available. So this may take some time, but I will be covering the Epstein files extensively this month. All right, let's just jump right in.
Crisis, and some companies are crashing. What's happened? And he said there's some crisis.
Okay, come back for a sec. What we're doing here, because this is all pretty boring stuff, he's talking about economics and the financial system, how the financial system is more like the human anatomy than it is a machine, and he's right when you think about it. It's pretty in depth on mostly that topic, that sort of topic. Steve Bannon's asked terrible questions, and Epstein walks all over him like obviously it's an amateur interviewing a professionally. But the importance of this, and then after this I found that video, a mortician explains why this photo doesn't make sense. It's called by Lauren the Mortician. Why I'm just going to show you this, like I say, I don't have a stake in the game. I don't have any hope of any type of outcome either way, because I don't think there was going to be an outcome. But if you're interested, or just for your own purposes, for future reference on anything or anyone, this is about getting a baseline. Now, this is probably more likely why this has been released before anything else. Anyone with half a brain can watch this and get a baseline and then figure out anything else that comes out in the future, whether it's real, whether it's even him, whether he's, But it's not for our benefit, okay? It's only to get us fighting with each other. It's to muddy the waters even more. Because now everyone's going to, the court of public opinion is going to play into it all. But it's important always, anyone that's ever been interviewed by police, that has got any kind of idea of human behaviour, it's like a lie detector test, the polygraph. They ask you questions that are obvious, that you know to be true and they know to be true, to get a baseline. They get baseline responses. They ask you some questions that they know to be true, and they'll throw one in here and there while they're talking to you after asking a hard question or one that they know you're lying about, just to watch the changes. And it also plays little Jedi mind tricks on you. And then they start thanking you for your honesty over and over and over again as soon as they get an honest answer, and then you cave. And you tell them everything about everyone and everything that you probably shouldn't have said. Stuff that's, going to get you in trouble and they don't care. Anyway.
And some companies are going bankrupt. I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, it's all over the papers. We're all terrified.
Right now, he's talking about the financial crisis in 2008. At this time, he was actually incarcerated. So we're going to watch him talk about that. We're going to look at a couple of other clips. This whole interview is actually about 2 hours long, but if I'm being frank, the majority of it's not that interesting. So we're just going to watch several clips that I do think are interesting.
Life savings. Because we have either a 401k or our pension funds. We don't know anything about money. Mr. Epstein, can you tell us, what's going on? Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt like this company called Lehman Brothers? And there's another company in the front page.
So right now, as he's talking about being an expert, you see a lot of excitement. You see his hands out in front of him. You see his eyebrows going up. We're seeing all the signs of body language that he wants you to listen to every word he's saying.
And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns. Oh no, I said.
Now, for obvious reasons, it's kind of strange seeing him do this hand gesture, but he's someone that is very animated when he's excited about what he's talking about. He is someone that uses his body language a lot. He's very kinetic, which is important to know because when he is not kinetic, when he's not using his body language, that also tells us something. So keep that in mind.
Front page today called Bear Stearns. Oh no, I said. Why?
Now watch his hands. You see the tips of his fingers right here. What he's doing right now is something we call steepling. Now when people are steepling, they want to be the smartest guy in the room. They want to be the expert. You'll see this with CEOs, with politicians. You see this with people that have positions of power. So as he's talking about being an expert, you see him with his hands in a steepled position because he wants to remind you, I'm the expert right here.
Be good.
Also, okay, is that, there's, yep, there we go, that, the other all under, but that one's over. What's the shapes in the middle all the time? And you got the head of the spear. You've got, right? It's another masonry thing. That's the steeple, okay? That's the steeple. Here's a church, and here's a steeple. When you look inside, there's the people. So there's that. They can all be referencing to your position of power within Freemasonry. And signalling to other Freemasons whether you're in distress or whether you're in control. Whether you're compromised or not.
Because that's the company I was a partner in. And in fact, that was the company I had a very large investment in. So, as a great story, I didn't have my Wall Street Journal, but in the early mornings you're allowed to make 2 phone calls, collect. And when you pick up the phone...
Now, one thing that you'll also possibly notice is that the man does not blink very often. One thing that's true of psychopaths, if you believe that he is one, is that they actually have a slower blink rate than your average person. This is studied. This is a fact. So it's...
All right, I'm going to disagree with that because I don't blink very often and I don't think I'm a psychopath. Also, I do have eye issues where they get bloodshot very easily. I don't know, it just probably comes with my trades and all the years I've been messing around with methanol and chemicals and welding and all that sort of stuff. All sorts of things can have effects on your eyes. Gaming. People who game a lot, I've noticed, tend to blink a lot. Anyway.
It's interesting that if you pay attention to his blink rate, it's very, very slow.
Getting a call from the Palm Beach County Jail. Will you accept reverse charges?
I've noticed liars tend to keep their eyes closed more. They'll blink and hold the blink for long periods. It saves them making eye contact.
And the person either says yes, and the call goes through, or the person says no. The person I called was Jimmy Kane, the president of Bear Stearns. And I said, tell...
See a little eyebrow flash right there. He's excited by this story. I'm not sure who the original audience was for this, but I think this kind of information is not that exciting for your average audience, unless this is a group of people that are very excited about finance.
The president of Bear Stearns. And I said, tell me what's going on. And so that my knowledge of the financial crisis happened with Jimmy, who was at the center of the storm, telling me about what Lehman had gone under, and they were trying to figure out a way, should they bail out Bear Stearns?
Okay, I'm going to end that video there. There's another one coming shortly, which I'm taking straight into it. What am I seeing? I'm reading things a little bit different to this bloke. I'm reading somebody that has an acquired form of narcissism. Only based on something that he's studied really hard at and got really good at. He's a mathematics professor who worked out how the financial system actually does work. That's a brain. That's kind of like the pattern brain I get, except all with numbers. Mine's with events, things that happen, and how it is felt, how it is reacted to, how certain events create the next event, cause and effect. So I suppose I have a cause and effect pattern brain. I'll see how this, causes this, and how those things are related to those things combined together cause something else that was desired. I seem to be able to put an inside-out Pandora's box into order. Now, we'll go on to the next one. This is the mortician.
Hi, is it just me or does...
Yeah, she's young, she's a bit... Take what you see with a grain of salt, other than what she shows you. It's a different world today, okay? Everybody's different. A lot of people don't know how to take me because I'm blunt. And I don't get into all the... I was never one to try and fit in. I don't, I still dress the same as and everything as what I did when I was in high school. In other words, I'm just me. I don't need to impress anybody. I don't care.
Does every household have the plague right now? We're all sick. And also, if you notice, my eyeball is swollen. I had microblading done on my eyebrows, so they're a little dark. They'll fade. Don't worry, they'll fade. But it was overdue. And I have no idea why. But this eye, can you see that? Is so swollen. I had threading done, and I'd never had that done before. I don't know. Has anyone else's eyeball swollen up after microblading? Please let me know. Anyways, anywho, without further ado, my hair's wild. I don't have any makeup on, but we're gonna nail this. When something goes viral involving death, my brain does something very specific. I don't jump to conclusions. I don't jump to theories. I start asking one question. Does the body make sense? And then I gotta look at it because I'm a mortician and I work with the dead. I see what the human body does after life leaves it. How fast things change. What relaxes. What drains. What dries out. And what never looks the way people expect it to. So when a photo starts circulating online, especially one being framed as a dead...
By the way, the reason I'm more inclined... The reason why I'm probably more inclined to believe this video than any others is clearly it's not the official story. It's somebody's taken it upon himself who has a YouTube channel, and it's based on all sorts of mortuary dead people stuff. Yeah, she's got nothing to gain nor lose out of doing this video. Which I believe means that I'm probably going to get much more honest commentary.
Dead body. I don't look at the headlines. I don't look at the comments. I mean, I do a little bit, but I look at the physiology. And that's exactly what happened when this image of Jeffrey Epstein started making the rounds. There's been a lot of renewed attention on the Epstein case lately. Documents, files, rediscussions, people relitigating everything that's already been talked about to death. No pun intended. I'm not here to re-explain who Jeffrey Epstein was. If you're watching this, you already probably know. And if you don't, that's not the point of today either. What is the point is this photo. This image has been shared by major media outlets, picked up by TikTok, on some crazy conversation threads over on X, and dropped into the conversation as if it represents death. And people started tagging me. I love when they do that. Not because they wanted to gossip, but because something about it felt off. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that, because I think it's weird too. So anyways, welcome back to Morbid Monday, where we don't just talk about death, we talk about what the body actually does after it. And today, we're putting the death science lens on a photo that the internet cannot stop our arguing about. Cause it's just another morbid Monday. Wish it was Friday. I need more lyrics. I got nothing. Hannah, oh my god, my brain is just fucking fried. Morbid Monday. Morbid Monday. Cue the intro. Wow, 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 wow. Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to show you, from a mortuary science standpoint, why this photo does not show a deceased body. Not opinion, not conspiracy, anatomy, physiology, and what the body actually does after death. Then, once we establish that, we're going to talk about the part that really doesn't sit right with me. It's a little opinionated, but we're going to go there. Why does this photo exist at all? Why is this image now resurfacing? And why does it feel like it creates more confusion than clarity? And finally, we're going to talk about the things that aren't discussed enough in this case, like the lack of publicly released autopsy photos, the absence of clear crime scene imagery, what documentation does and doesn't exist, and what happens after someone like this actually dies. But before we go anywhere else, we need to start with the body. It's raining outside. Alrighty then. Because no matter what you believe about this case, a dead body follows rules. So let me show you exactly how I can tell, just by looking at this image that you all lovingly and morbidly tagged me in, that the person, aka Jeffrey Epstein, in this photo is very much alive in this moment, which actually makes the photo weirder to me. Pull the photo up again. I get tagged in this, and y'all want to know, does this look like a dead body to you? And that's when I realized why this photo is so effective and honestly dangerous, because it sits right in that uncomfortable middle space. Close enough to death to confuse people, or at least it's cosplaying death, but not close enough to actually be real. So instead of reacting emotionally, I did what I always do. I stripped everything else away and I asked one question. Which, if you ever see something like this again, I hope that this video comes to mind, because you should be thinking, what is the body telling me? So when I saw this, the very first thing I noticed wasn't the weird looking table he's lying on. It wasn't his body positioning. It was actually the mouth area, his mouth. This is one of those things that families are always kind of shocked by, because no one really talks about it. But when someone dies, every muscle in their body relaxes. All of it, including your jaw. And when the jaw relaxes and someone is lying on their back, gravity takes over and the mouth opens. Not dramatically, just naturally. So naturally, in fact, that at the funeral home, we don't just hope the mouth stays closed. We actually have to physically close it, and we have a few different techniques on how to do that, but we'll have to talk about that in another video. That's not poetic, that's not optional, that's anatomy. There are techniques for it, because without intervention, it will not stay shut. Have you ever been sleeping in the middle of the night and your mouth just pops open? You can feel that your mouth has popped open and you've been inhaling through your mouth, so your mouth is all dry and scratchy. That happens when you die too, because it just relaxes. You're gonna be thinking about me when you wake up in the middle of the night and you slept with your mouth open. You're gonna be like, oh, Lauren, why? So when I see an individual like Jeffrey Epstein laying flat on his back with his mouth naturally closed, no tape, no visual support, no tension, my brain immediately goes, okay, well, the muscle tone is still there, and muscle tone does not exist in a deceased individual. And this is one of those little details. I know it's little, but it's a big detail, and people don't realize that, because movies, when you watch movies and they suddenly pass away, movies lie to us. Television lies to us. Dead people on screen always look peaceful, mouth closed, perfect, calm. I always think of Snow White. She looked beautiful, right? Her mouth is just perfectly closed. But that's not reality. Reality is gravity. Reality is relaxation. Reality is the body doing exactly what physics tells it to do. So right out the gate, before I even look at anything else, that closed mouth tells me I am not looking at a deceased person. And once I clock that, I move on to the next next thing, because the mouth isn't the only part of the body that gives this away. The eyes are next, and those are loud. After death, dehydration starts almost immediately. It does not wait. It does not care. The eyes are one of the first places that you can actually see it. The surface of the eyeball starts to dry out. The corneas lose that wet, reflective look. The eyes flatten and they dull. Dehydration is not my friend in the funeral home. It's one of the very first things we are constantly fighting. In this photo, though, the eyes are still moist. Are those tears? Are his eyes leaking? I don't know, but they definitely look full and hydrated and puffy in a way that suggests fluid is still being regulated in the body. That is not what I expect to see in someone who is deceased. Dead eyes don't look like that. They just don't. And I know it's just a movie, like I know it's just a film, but in Stranger Things, when the kid is holding Eddie and like the bats got to him and he's no longer alive and his eyes are just glistening. And I know he's supposed to have just died, but I'm like, it's too lifelike. It can ruin movies for you too. So I don't know. Once you see it, you just can't unsee it. Then I move on to skin color. When the heart stops, circulation stops, and the blood is no longer being pushed throughout the body. Gravity takes over. Blood settles into the lowest parts of your body, and we call that lividity. So if someone is lying flat on their back, I expect to see that settling, that purpley-ish color start showing up in very specific places. The back of the head, the neck, maybe even the ears, face, shoulders. What I do not expect to see is an evenly colored, we'll throw the picture up again, like right here, I don't know. But his face is evenly colored. You can even see pink in certain areas of the face, which fun mortuary fact of the day, when we are embalming, have you ever wondered why embalming fluid is a certain color, why it might be a little pink or a little red? When we embalm, you can see that little pink color in his cheeks, maybe his chin and his forehead. We are essentially trying to duplicate that being alive look. So as the embalming fluid goes through and it starts to firm up the tissues, it might make things look a little pink again. My cheeks are pink. So in the photo, there is still color in his face, pinkness, and that color matters because deceased bodies don't hold facial color like that while supine. That kind of color suggests ongoing circulation, or at the very least, very recent circulation. Either way, it's not consistent with a body that's already gone through post-mortem changes. I've also seen some people were zooming in on Jeffrey Epstein's nose area because there is moisture under the nose, and they think that it's purge coming out of the nose. This looks like purge, they say, but it doesn't. True post-mortem purge is heavier, can be darker, and purge follows gravity, usually. Purge is another nightmare term. Not a good day if you've got that going on, but clear moisture around the nose is incredibly common in living or recently treated patients. Oxygen, secretions, positioning. But when you stack it with everything else, Jeffrey Epstein's mouth, the eyes, the color of his face, it fits the same picture. This photo of Jeffrey Epstein is not behaving like a dead body. He's very much alive in this photo. That is my mortician opinion. So now I've looked at the jaw, I've looked at the eyes, I've looked at his color. This photo is not post-death. But wait, there's more. We're not done yet. And that's where things stop being about anatomy, and instead we're going to talk about intent. Because once I'm confident that this person, Mr. Epstein, is alive in this image, the question isn't, what am I looking at? The question becomes, why are we being shown this image at all? Like, seriously, why? Why was this photo taken? Who took the photo? This isn't security footage. This isn't a chaotic moment. This is a clean, centered image of a person, a particular person, lying flat with his eyes closed. I've seen hospital beds. I've seen gurneys. I've seen stretchers, cots, you name it. This does not look like any of those things. Look closer. What is he laying on? It's flat. It's rigid. Is that a handle? Like, what? Please, if you work in a medical facility, doesn't this look like an autopsy table? It looks like something for being alive. You're dead. Like, we're gonna put you on this slab, essentially. And then I want you to look at the head area. There is clearly something structured under his head. Not a pillow, like where's the pillow? Not a folded blanket, because we'd see that poking out. But there is something firm under his head. Is it a head block? Like, we use head blocks in the prep room to hold the head up and in position while we are embalming. I don't feel like the ER staff is gonna be, here, Mr. Epstein, please lie flat, lie still. I'm gonna put this perfectly positioned block under your head on this perfectly positioned table, and I want you to lay there and pretend that you're sleeping. It feels framed, it feels composed, and it feels way too calm. Like, this is a documentative photo, not a response to some sort of situation. Does anyone else agree? So if this isn't a post-death image, where are the images that actually matter? Is anyone wondering that? Because we've seen famous autopsy photos before. Michael Jackson, Kurt Cobain, JFK. So why not this case? Why not this one? We didn't get autopsy photos of Jeffrey Epstein. We didn't get clear crime scene images. We got a written report. And again, I'm not saying the report is fake. I'm saying we're being asked to accept a conclusion without the same level of visual documentation we've seen in other cases. And don't just hand me this weird photo instead. That's not transparency. Nothing about this is transparent. It actually leads to more confusion. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you agree? And this is where I need to tell you something. While it's pouring rain outside, can you hear that? Because this whole situation isn't theoretical for me. I have been on a death call inside of a prison before. It's wild to even talk about, but we had a guy whose cellmate took his life. And here I am, little old mortuary student me, loading up my silver Chrysler minivan with my cot. So I roll up, I get to the prison, and they don't take me through the front. I had to go through some special side entrance. They have an officer walk all the way out and around my van with this long mirror, like a stick, and it had a mirror at the end, so he was like checking underneath my van. Then when I got inside, they had to search me. My cot got searched, my equipment, everything is searched. That was new. And they had locked all of the inmates back into their cells. So when I got there, it was super quiet. Like, nobody was out and around because they were all locked away. And I will just never forget that quiet. I'm walking down this hallway, pushing my cot. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear my wheels turning on the ground. And I start noticing movement out of the corner of my eyes as we're going down this hallway. There are two sets of eyes, one up top and one on the bottom. One man above the other. One is crouched down a little, one's a little higher, because they are looking out these little rectangle windows on their cell doors because they are so small and they want to watch me go by with my funeral home equipment. It was so eerie. I can't even fully explain it to you. Definitely did not feel alone in there. We had to go up these stairs. No elevator, at least not one that they let me or told me that I could use. So officers helped me carry my cot all the way up to the second floor. And when we got there, the medical examiner was super duper thorough. Photos, crime scene documentation, the homicide team was there. Even when we rolled him over, she wanted images of his back. Documentation, 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 if you get what I'm saying. And that experience is why I know without question that these photos exist. They're real. They're out there. Still locked away in this file that maybe we'll have access to one day. And I guess that's why it floors me that we're given almost nothing here. Like, you think the government would just want to clear up all the conspiracies and be like, hey guys, here's everything. We know that you like having your tin hats on, but hey, moving along, nothing to see here. This is it. I guess not. All right, so let's shift a little bit and talk about what actually happens after someone like this dies. And when I say someone like this, I don't mean a celebrity, because Jeffrey Epstein wasn't famous. He was connected. Money, power, and access. And deaths like that tend to get handled very, very quietly. And as far as the public knows, there was no traditional public funeral for Mr. Epstein. No viewing, no service, and no coverage. He was buried, not cremated, in an unmarked grave near his family. And that matters because cremation ends questions. I'm floored he wasn't cremated, honestly. Burial doesn't end things all the time. Burial gives us the opportunity to sometimes exhume the person if we need to and go back. What we don't know publicly, though, is whether Jeffrey Epstein was embalmed. And yes, that matters too, because embalming leaves documentation, licensed professionals, and paper trails. Who was it? Who was the embalmer that embalmed Jeffrey Epstein? Please message me. Send me a message. Funeral service is so small, it's gotta be somebody. I know it. I don't know everything about this case. I don't have secret files. I don't have insider information. But what I do know from working with the dead is this. The body doesn't lie. Bodies follow rules. They lose muscle tone. They lose moisture. Blood settles. And there's color changes. In the body that we were shown in these photos that I was summoned in, it is not following the rules of death. So I think we can officially claim this as cleared. This house has been cleared. Because bodies don't lie, but people, on the other hand, people lie. They lie by omission. They lie by distraction. They lie by giving you just enough to keep you arguing instead of asking better questions. Wouldn't you agree? That doesn't mean every unanswered question is a conspiracy, but it does mean when something doesn't make sense, it's worth slowing it down and looking at it. Like, really looking. And talking about it helps too. That's why I always say there's no weird or bad questions, because this is conversations that should be had. Because the body doesn't lie, people do. All right, that's where I'm gonna leave it. I'm sorry this isn't our typical Morbid Monday. We're gonna get back into the swing of things next week, just with the plague hanging around.
Well, so what do you think? Is he alive or dead? The video that I'm going to put together with this it's Raymond Reddington and his accountant made a blacklist, it's called. The two separate videos will go together. And then after this I'll probably never do another Epstein video again, because I think it's contaminated evidence, contaminated crime scene, contaminated everything, nothing more than circumstantial evidence at this point. I don't think any of it's going to be admissible in a court of law, especially with the advent of such murky waters of artificial intelligence and deepfakes. How many people are going to, how many guilty people now, thanks to AI and deepfakes and all that sort of bullshit, how many people now are going to be able to find ways to manufacture evidence to prove innocent when they're guilty? How many people are going to be able to find ways to send people to jail on things that never happened? How many people are going to get blackmailed because they can't prove that it's not fake? Well, I think we have opened up a whole new Pandora's box simply just by letting them release their X-Files, and I think we've opened up yet another Pandora's box on top of that by not demanding AI to be destroyed before it began. It should never have been a thing. It should never have been allowed. 50 years ago, over 50 years ago, AI was... We know AI to have been kicking around over 50 years ago. We know. So, hypothetically, AI Who knows how old it is really. Like in Australia, compared to the United States and other places, the internet's still a baby. It's still in its infantile stages in Australia compared to some places. We're still learning the intricacies and pros and cons and ins and outs, ups and downs, round and rounds, back and forth. We're still learning how it's going to destroy everything on us, which I don't think's a bad thing, as long as it destroys itself in the process. I'd love to go back to people, carbon, you know. I'd love to go back to that. I'd love to go back to, you see me today, well, I'm not sure where I said it. There we are. You see me today, look something up in another video. I was like, oh, I like that word, so right in real time I sat there and I looked it up in the dictionary, you know. I don't have the world's greatest vocabulary. My spelling's average. My punctuation's reasonably good. It's my comprehension of literature that I find important. You can't be withstanding or notwithstanding the written or spoken words presented to you if you don't comprehend them. Because you might find yourself understanding something. I mean, Section 176 of the Constitution states every officer must be issued an identity card and, if asked, must produce their identity card for inspection before they give a direction, exercise power, or enact any authority. Section 176 of the Constitution is the vehicle in which to enact that legislature. See, vehicles carry things. They don't always have wheels. It's just an example of literature, or comprehension of the written and spoken word. There's all kinds of vehicles. It's just an example. That's not even relevant to what I was talking about, but I don't even think Epstein's dead, to be honest. I haven't thought that for quite a long time. I don't. You wait for the X-Files to debunk the E-Files. X, anybody?